Okay, boys and girls, so here's a few last little tidbits. The first thing I want to tell you is, like, for this one that we had looked at earlier, what I did, because the body was so muddy, I just took some purple and some white and put it in there. If I had wanted to, I could put some pink in there and then just blend that in there very lightly. You don't want to go crazy. And then if you start to get the heebie-jeebies from your fingers, you can just wipe them off on your smock. But something you can do, once you've brightened something up, you can always add texture. So if I wanted it to be that this was sort of a hairy cat or dog or whatever it is, I could just go over the top and add that. Now, some of you are going to notice when you get the oil the chalk pastels that you're like, oh, they look so dirty. That's because what happens is that they rub up against each other, but they're perfectly fine. If you're thinking to yourself, I think that's yellow, but it looks awfully green, you have my permission on the table to just go like this. And you'll be like, oh, wow, that's an awesome color. So if you're not sure what the color is, just off to the side, just make one little mark. I'm not encouraging you to go all over the place. Please don't do that. But if you're like, I have no idea what color this is, and you go like that, you're gonna be like, oh, it's green. And sooner or later, we're gonna get these all cleaned off. So remember, last thing too, if you have dust on your paper, never ever blow. Just lift it up and tap and let those little pieces of dust come off. But for today, I really don't think you're going to be generating much dust because you're going to be just using a small amount of pastel. Now, something that I would like to tell you about is that next week we are going to be doing a project with shells. So I thought with your extra time today, I would let you look in closely at a shell and draw one. We're actually going to be using these awesome pens. They're called tombows. And a lot of people who do modern calligraphy use them because when you write with them, you can press hard and then soft, and it will make the line a different width. But we are not going to be using that side of it today. We are going to be using the pointed edge. And what we're going to be doing is, first, I'm going to let you cheat today and trace it. You'll have your one finger very firmly placed on the shell. This top part is going to be a pain, but I know you'll be able to do it. And then you're going to go all the way around. Now, as you're doing this, you're probably going to be checking out the details of this shell and noticing that there are lines going this way. When I take it away, sure enough, I can see the shape, but now I got to add in some details. The first thing that's most obvious to me is that I need to come in here and make that V there. The next thing that's most obvious to me is that I need to get these ridges drawn in. If I start at the top, I know that I can just come straight down. Now, when I drew that line, I drew kind of hard. What I'd like for you to get used to is just drawing very light. You can always almost let your pen like just kind of skip along on the paper, or like I'm doing just a little bit of a shaky hand right now. It helps to make it just a little bit less cartoony when you're sketching, to just be very, very light with your pen. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to finish getting those details in there. And guess where I'm going to go next? You're right, I'm going to go down towards the bottom. So I'm going to come over here, and I notice that the ridges go this direction on that one. Just like that. I even noticed that they kind of do a little thing like this over here, so that's kind of fun. And now I'm going to probably go back around here and just kind of darken that in a little bit. Since I cheated, I don't want it to look like I cheated, so I'm going to go around the edge here. And you can just do another one of those little wobbly hand things going around. Now I'm going to start, do you see how the shading kind of goes sideways? So I'm just going to come and I'm going to look for the darkest areas, and I'm just going to come and start to put on these little hatch lines going this direction, because that's the way that they look on the shell. The other thing that's going on this shell is that for every single ridge, there's a little bit of a shadow. So I might come back and just do a little bit more of a shadow along those ridges. So right now I'm just coming here doing this. I notice that it's particularly darker right there, so I'm just going to come and put put that. And notice I'm not taking forever. Again, I'm almost doing this shaky hand thing, like to get that in there. I'm just finishing off some shading. And this is what I was talking about if you wanted to just go next to these real, just to darken them in. Now, once you have this, there are so many more details that we could put in, but we're probably not going to have a ton of time. And so I just want to introduce you to something that someone discovered by accident once. They were writing with one of these tombow pens, and they spilled water and the black one all over the place, and they were like, whoa, that's cool. So let me show you what we're going to do now. I'm going to be giving you a very, very fine brush. You're going to be dipping it into water, and you are going to do this, bing, 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 so that it's not, I don't want you to have a brush that's dripping wet. I want you to do this on the edge. You're gonna take this, and oh my goodness, you are hardly going to touch it. I want you to take it, and I want you to go down one of those ridges. And when you do you see what's starting to happen? The tombow ink is bleeding. Don't call an ambulance. He's fine. What's cool is that it just sort of, now I'm going to wet my brush just a little bit more. The black bleeds a little bit, and all of a sudden you end up with these super cool shadows going on your leaf. I'm going to zoom in a little so that you can see that. Now, I also really, really loved the shadows that were going sideways with all of that texture. So I'm going to come back here. Again, always kind of dabbing. Don't do it. I thought it was safe to use the word dab by now. You're just going to kind of dab it off on the edge. I can come here along this side and just kind of darken that in. Do you see how it's getting shaded? Just a little bit of water on your brush. Please, please, please. You will be so sad if you use a ton of water. That would be so sad. So I'm just finishing this up. And now I'm going to work my way down to the bottom. Notice that I'm never doing across the whole thing. I'm having my brush, I'm treating my brush almost like it's the tombow pen. I'm just kind of going over it very, very lightly. I'm going to come over here and go over that very, very, very lightly. Very lightly. And now what I can do is turn it sideways and just start to go over some of these and have some of those things going this way. Notice if I even just kind of drag it over the whole thing, it makes little stripes. You never want to say, oh, I'm just going to take a shortcut and go like windshield wipers. Don't do that, because you're instantly going to ruin it. Just kind of go over it. And by the time you're done, you're going to be like, hello, I think I just did something pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to seeing you do that today.